image, right? It's a very important one. And if you've never read any of his books, I think you should read his books. Now, he said specifically that there are four ways people make money, and he's used this diagram to sort of exemplify it. So, number one, you're an employee, right? So, you have a job, and people pay you for the time that you spend, doing that job. Is that okay? So that's one way to make money. Well, I've heard people say you can never be rich working for someone else. I beg to disagree. Well, it depends on who you're working for, right? I've heard of individuals who have become billionaires working for someone. Is that okay? So there's no issues being an employee, right? No matter if you're building a big business, you would need individuals who will be employees in that business. Okay, so it's okay. So that's just one way. The second way you make money is through what he calls the S quadrant, right? S, self-employed. Now here you own a job. And what do I mean by that? So you went to school, you learned how to become a doctor, you leave school, you start a hospital, and then you are the doctor in that hospital. You are self-employed, really. Okay? You learn a particular craft or art, and then you are serving humanity with that art or craft on a daily basis or on weekends. You are self-employed. It's another to make money. The danger, however, is that every time you are not there, then the business does not move forward, right? Because the same way as an employee, you have to be in the office. You have to show up in the office, right? Before you can earn, right? As a self-employed, you also have to show up before you can earn. So even though you can make money as an employee, you can make money as being self-employed, largely, there is some limitations around how much you can make. Is that okay? Number three, is by being a business owner. What does that mean? Somebody who owns a business system and people work for you, right? So somebody who owns a business is somebody who, and I'm talking about a business owner now. A business owner is somebody who you own a business and there are systems in place in that business for the business to run, okay? And so you can step out for 1 month. The business is running because the system is running. Is that okay? And money is coming in, value is being delivered to people, and people are working for you. People are getting things done on your behalf. So that's beautiful. Business owner. The fourth is by being an investor. So you invest in different things from investing in stocks, investing in bonds, investing, even if it's a money market, you're investing, or you're investing in another person's business. You're investing, right? And your money is working for you, and your money is being multiplied, and then you can make money, right? What I've discovered is that people who really, when you're talking about making a lot of money, a lot of times it's always in the B and the I quadrants, okay? Everybody. Yesterday or day before yesterday, Forbes released the list of the wealthiest Africans, right? In Africa, right? Wealthiest Africans. Yes, Dangote was 25 billion, he's grown his wealth. Of course, we all know why. The refinery is open in Nigeria, it's helping, right? As much as it can. But I look at the 10 people, and I was just reviewing that just before I came into this meeting, right? Or this seminar. I was reviewing the 10 top people. And as I reviewed, it occurred to me they are all business owners or investors. Simple. All business owners or investors. It would be difficult to get anybody who is self-employed fall into that category, or anybody who's an employee fall there, right? So as an employee or self-employed, you can live very comfortably, right? But a time comes that if you want to break into certain levels of wealth, right, and certain levels of providing value to humanity, you would have to become a business owner or an investor. I tell you. Now, having laid this foundation, right, who are the people I'm going to be speaking to? I'm speaking to individuals who are interested. If you are an employee, I am challenging you, all right, as you work very diligently where you work, which is good, please think about something you can also do to add value. Because if you keep working, one day you're going to resign, or you're going to retire, right? And when you hit retirement age and you leave after retiring, you start to wonder, okay, what am I going to do? All right. So it's, for me, if you're employed, I would always advise it's either you create a small business that you can grow, or you are investing as you make your money. Make sure you're investing. Don't spend everything on yourself. Is that okay? So make sure you're investing. Now, if you're self-employed, I'm challenging you to grow your business from depending solely on your energy, your effort, and all about you, right, to becoming a business owner. Is that okay? Because at that level, you are able to, trust me, you are able to do it with less stress. Okay. And then, if you are a business owner, you are self-employed, you are an employee, I would challenge you that in the midst of everything, make sure you're invested. Is that okay? All right. Having said that, let's speak to individuals who are building a business, or you are translating a small business into a big business. Let me just lay this foundation again, right? What are the phases that businesses go through as they grow? The very first phase is what I call the startup, or the early stage, right? The startup or the early stage. At this stage, you've started the business is running. I mean, depending on the country you're operating in, right? This business will be categorized as an SME, a small or medium scale business, right? And you're starting the business is in its early stages. You might be starting in your garage. Most of the big Silicon Valley companies started in the garage. So you might be starting in your garage. You might be starting just on your laptop. You might be starting just you and a few friends, you and some few people. You're starting just in your startup phase, your early stage. What are the key things you are doing in this stage? You are defining the purpose of the business, why the business should exist. You are identifying the products and services you want to sell. Based on the demands of the market, not based on your whims and caprices. I think people make that mistake, right? I've made that mistake a number of times, I tell you. Where I start a business, I develop a product or a service that I like, right? And when I get to the market, then I discover, okay, maybe people are not as excited about what I'm talking about as I am. So here you're defining what is the product or the service you want to offer. And then in terms of strategy, you're defining your strategy, how you're going to go to market, and you're defining who your customers will be, all right, and how to engage your customers. All of that you're doing at the startup and early stage. Now, the next stage is the stabilization stage. Now, as you start up, after a while, your business begins to make some profits. You begin to make some money. You are in a place where, okay, you can hire more people. You create more processes. There is a demand. Some of it are regulatory, some of necessity. If you're going to move that business forward, you have to create structure. If you're going to scale the business, you have to create structures, you have to create processes, you have to create policies that would help the business to be stabilized, So you have to do that. That's the stabilization phase. The third phase is the expansion phase. A lot of people stabilize and they stay there, For each of these phases, I must say, there is a skill in moving from one phase to the other, all right? So after stabilization, the next thing you should be gunning for is the expansion stage. Here you are expanding, and you're expanding the system of your production, right? To ensure that it is able to go into other territories. Not necessarily you going into other territories. You might do it through partnerships, do it through strategic collaborations. You might do it by your product going into other markets, all right, and other territories. But what does this tell us? At the expansion phase, you are serving more people. You are becoming global in some instances. You're going global. And what is the impact or the implication of that? The impact is that at this stage, you must start to think about serving in customers and clients in different parts of the world. You cannot think local alone at this stage. All right. So after expansion, you go to consolidation. At the consolidation phase, you've expanded, you're consolidating. You're doing something similar to what you did during stabilization, right? But at the consolidation phase, what you're doing is that you are attaining and retaining market leadership in whatever sector you're playing in. Okay, there are some organizations that if I mention today, everybody on this call, you know them. Meanwhile, there are some other organizations who are in the same sector. I mentioned them today, you might not know them. And it's okay, right? It just depends on what phase that business is in. And then after consolidation, the next thing is diversification. So there was a time when the two guys who started Google came together, PhD students, after their PhD, came together and they started, let's create a search engine. And they started, right? And started, of course, popular story in their garage, right? And they start, after a while, they discovered that, you know what? We have grown a little bit. People are beginning to know us. We need to stabilize. So, hey, put structures. Maybe, okay, so what's your grade? What's your rank? What is your title? We need to hire HR. We need to hire finance. We need to hire, these very critical roles that help you to stabilize effectively. We need to have policies on how our employees would relate, our employees come in, how we hire, how we, how we exit people, how all of those things would have to come into play. What is our health and safety procedure? What is our security procedure? All of that will come into play. After that, they say, okay, you know what? So we're popular, we're good in America. Can we expand beyond America? They try to get into other territories, Africa, Europe, and the rest of them. And after that, they say, you know what? Let's consolidate and become the market leader, such that people now would, if they want to tell you, go search for something, they say, can you Google it? You see it? So from a startup has become so consolidated and they've attained market leadership such that people even use their name to define an action, right? So after attaining that market leadership and saying, okay, you know what, we're not going to stop here, let's diversify. So they begin to diversify into a lot of other things, Gmail, YouTube, all of those things that helps them to consolidate and make them stronger, So these are the 5 phases of business growth. Every business that is going to do great things and arrive at diversification would have to go through these phases, right? Now, having said that, let me just explain and give some clarity around each of those phases. Now, at the startup and the early stage, right, what is the greatest need of the business? Clarity and customers. Clarity and customers. You see, at the startup phase, the greatest need of the business is not opening a massive office, opening a massive office, buying official cars, all of that. No. At the startup and the early stage, the most important thing for the business is having clarity around why we exist as a business, having clarity around what product are we pushing and are we going to major on as we travel, having clarity around what is our strategy, because your strategy defines how you're going to go to market and how you are not going to go to market. So what is our strategy for engaging, right? Clarity. You must have clarity around those 3 things. And customers. All of those things must lead to you gaining customers. What you want to do is gain customers, retain customers at the startup and early stage. That's what you want to do, right? You want to do great work so that your customers would keep coming back and would realization phase. Here you're putting in structures, processes, policies. What you need the most is a solid team that would help to make all of these things a reality, all the structure, all the processes, all the policies a reality. You must hire smart people that are going to translate all of the things that you want done into actionable structures, customized structures, as I will say, actionable processes, and actionable policies. Now, at this stage, you are also defining culture, okay, very strongly. Some things that you did in the startup phase that you might not have paid a lot of attention to as what you want your culture to be, right? At the stabilization phase, you cannot, at this stage, you are defining what your DNA is. in terms of culture, and you're ensuring that that culture is permeating throughout the entire organization, and you're making it a process, a system, such that anybody who enters and comes into your organization becomes the culture that you want them to become to achieve your strategy. Then at the expansion phase, it's important that you're building strategic alliances, partnerships, collaborations, and you're getting investments. It takes money to expand, right? It takes money to go global. And at this phase, you are thinking about strategic alliances because you must be conversant that your business would exist in a particular venue, a particular place. However, to engage the world effectively, you must understand the cultures of the world. I remember when I was doing my SPHRI class, they told me that one of the most critical competencies, right? Critical competencies of leadership of any organization that is thinking of operating globally, right? Or regionally, as the case may be, is cultural intelligence. Very important. Cultural intelligence. And I usually tell people this story, right? I remember many years ago, I was consulting for a particular organization. I was hiring, so they were setting up factory and setting up shop in Nigeria. It's a German organization, right? Setting up factory in Nigeria. And so I was leading the project to hire all the employees, the HR director, everybody, the CEO, country manager, everybody, right? And they had their African office headquartered in Kenya. So the lady who was the head of HR director in Kenya, wonderful German lady, she flew into Nigeria, and we ran the interviews together, especially for the critical roles. And I can never forget, right? Now, she came into Nigeria after the interviews and speaking to a number of people. We were now debriefing. And of course, the first role we're going to do a debrief about was the role around the country manager. And we had this guy from L'Oreal who we were speaking to, and we were going to do a debrief about. And then she says, so Joshua, what do you think about this guy? And I said, because this company was an FMCG, right? So I said, well, I think the guy is okay. And she says, oh, really? He's okay. Should I hire him? And I said, no. I said, he's okay. Now, you see, what was happening? And because she was confused, she said, but you said he's okay, right? So why shouldn't I hire him if he's okay? And I said, no. So I now explained to her, I said, okay, in Nigeria, right? In Nigeria, we are very high context in terms of our culture. Well, I understand she's German. She's very low context in terms of our culture. And let me explain what that means. So high context cultures, right? The mantra is do as I do, not necessarily what I say. Okay? In low context cultures, the mantra is do as I say, not necessarily what I do. So, in a low context culture, when I say, I am coming, I must be walking towards you. In a high context culture, I can tell you I'm coming, and I get up and I leave the room. Right? Somebody who is from a low context culture cannot understand that. But you said you're coming. But how are you coming and you're leaving the room? And in a high context culture, we get it. It's not a problem. When you say I'm coming and you get up and you're leaving the room, what it tells us is he's going. He's only saying that after a while I'll be back. That's what he's saying. No issues. Right? Now that is a clash of cultures, right? So I had to explain that. I said, and I too learned that, okay, Joshua, don't say it's okay. If it's fine, say it's fine. If it's not fine, say don't do it. Okay. Now, so cultural intelligence becomes extremely important for the leadership at the expansion phase. right? And strategic alliances, collaborations, because we are living in an age that is globalization plays a very active role in the things we do. So you don't necessarily need to go build shop, move office to one place, and all of that for you to be present there. You can be present there through a strategic alliance. You can be present there through a joint venture. You can be present there through a partnership. You can be present through a strategic collaboration with another business, right? So at the expansion phase, these two things become extremely important. Of course, investment. It takes money to invest, to expand. Consolidation phase, right? At this phase, things that are important. Number one, a solid brand. Your brand becomes extremely important. I was having a conversation with the team earlier today, and I told them, I said, it's amazing. In the year 2000, right? In the year 2000, Coca-Cola, the brand Coca-Cola, was worth $80 billion. The total assets of Coca-Cola all over the world was worth about $8 billion. Here again, the brand, 80 billion. The assets, all the factories, the equipment, all of that, 8 billion. The brand was about 10 times more valuable than the assets. So you could take the assets, but as long as they had the brand, they had the business. So at the consolidation phase, what are you really interested in? Strengthening your brand, right? And also ensuring consistency in service, because there is that temptation that as you expand, you begin to have dilution of your service across the various parts of the world. So you want to ensure that there is consistency of service everywhere in the world. People are experiencing the same thing when they interact with your brand globally, right? And then at the diversification phase, what are you focused on? Innovation and, of course, massive investments. Because here you're going into other sectors, so you are innovating, right? You're innovating. And then you need more investments to diversify. You're going to be building, but trust me, if you've done phases 1 to 4 properly, phase 5 would be a walk in the park, as long as you have smart people and you have a vision of what you want to do. Is that okay? All right. So the big question I have for each and everyone on the call today, if you do have a business, where is your business, right? Where is your business? Is your business in the startup or early stage from everything I have described? Is it in the stabilization phase? Is it in the expansion phase? Is it the consolidation phase or diversification phase? And wherever your business is in, and I'm sure most of us will be the startup and early stage / stabilization phase, right? Wherever your business is, right? I want you to start to think about what the greatest needs are. Start to think about it, okay? Now, what challenges, right, are we faced with? Now, Peter Drucker said that we are living in an era of accelerated change, overwhelming complexity, and tremendous competition, and also lightning communication, right? So it's an era of 4 C's: change, complexity, competition, communication. Things are happening so fast. Change is happening ridiculously fast, right? I mean, and it's happening in an accelerated pace, okay? So what used to be the in thing today, by tonight, is no longer the in thing, okay? There was a time that when you had a telephone, right? The telephone would, you would use it for 3-4 years before another version comes out. But we're in an age now where in the same year you have different versions of this, the same telephone company producing different versions, right? So things are happening so fast. Same thing with cars, okay? And overwhelming complexity. Things are not as simple as it sounds. Now we're talking about wicked problems, right? So if it's not as simple, so a question that many years ago would be so simple: how do you solve poverty? Be so simple. In our day and age, how do you solve poverty is a wicked problem, right? Because there are lots of tentacles attached to it. Then tremendous competition. Competition is now global, okay? I tell people that, your competitor is not the local company beside your house or on your streets or in your state. Your competition is that business that is somewhere in China that is thinking about coming to Nigeria or thinking about coming to Africa to set up shop. I mean, if they do it successfully, all of a sudden you discover that your business is gone. Okay? And lightning communication. Things are happening so fast. Communication is happening. I mean, it's getting shorter. ChatGPT, AI, all of those things are helping with communication. Is that okay? Okay. Now, we also live in that era of what we call the VUCA era, right? So volatile, uncertainty, complexity, ambiguity. These are things that characterize the environment that we live in. Things are not straightforward. Things are not as simple as we say they are anymore. Things are very ambiguous now. Now, with all of that happening, what are the four forces that are shaping them, right? Technology, globalization, of course, COVID-19 played a critical role, and social policies. These four things are shaping the way businesses operate now, okay? And so these are the things that are impacting, some of them creating challenges, some of them enabling the way we do business now. So regardless of all of the challenges, the complexity, the ambiguity, the volatility that exist in the world today, the truth is that these four factors are shaping it, right? And if we say that, oh, these factors are going to be inhibitors, the truth is there are businesses that are leveraging these four factors to progress their interests, right? And to do something great. So it's never an excuse. That's what I'm saying. It's never an excuse to say, oh, the challenges are too much. I cannot build the great business I want to build. The question is understanding how to do it, which is how I'm going to be ending this session, right? So how do you do it? How do you thrive in the midst of all of this? So you have a business idea, you've sort of situated where the business is. Okay, it's in the early stage. The things we should be focusing on is branded as our customers, is our identity, our purpose. Okay, you're at the stabilization phase. Okay, I built a business. I want to stabilize this business. I need to invest in hiring smart people, not ignoring customers and your identity, refreshing your identity and strategy anyway. And you're thinking about all of that. However, we are faced with challenges, right, in the world today. There are some tariffs are being threatened to kick in, maybe from tomorrow or the rest, from Europe to America. What is the implication of that on my business? You're thinking about all of that. However, there are things to do to strive, and I have seen these things work for businesses all over the world. I believe there are 6 things, right? 6 things, and I've called it the 5V and T framework, right? So there are 6 things, the 5 V's and the 1 T, right? It's a framework I developed from my experience and from interacting with businesses. So number 1 is vision. Number 2, values. Number 3, venue. Number 4, value proposition. Number 5, visibility. And the last is teamwork. Is that okay? So let's just touch on each of this, and then we'll take your questions. Vision. What do I mean by vision? Vision is when you have a clear idea of why your company or your business exists and what you want to achieve. Sadly, a lot of businesses are not clear on what their vision is. Very sadly, a lot of businesses are not very clear. They have a vision statement. Don't get me wrong. There's a vision statement, right? But in terms of the extent to which they want to fulfill the reason why they exist, a lot of businesses lack it. And if you're an individual here, you've just started a business, don't settle, right? Don't be comfortable when your business can sponsor you to travel for summer. Your business can sponsor you to buy 1 or 2 things. You can pay fees of the kids. You can buy a house, and then you're relaxed. A lot of businesses have died that way. But when we're talking about vision, we're talking about building that business that would cause massive societal impact, right? So whatever business you currently have, if it's an idea and you want to begin to execute, or you currently run a small business, I want to admonish you. I want to plead with you, all right? I want to plead with you that please and please make sure that the vision of that business is much, much bigger than you, right? It's something that will speak for generations. That's how you build a great business, right? A vision that says, you know what, we're going to influence the whole world, and then you throw in all of the energy and the discipline required to do that. That is the kind of business that will win. Okay, so number one is vision. Number two is values. You must be clear on what the values that you're going to sustain within your business are. What are the acceptable behaviors within your business? You know, anything cannot go. You know, if integrity means something to you, then let integrity mean something from day one. And whatever you need to put in place to ensure that it is obvious to everyone that integrity means something to your business, you need to put that in place. If it means hiring an accountant, if it means, you know, getting, you know, a software, and there are softwares these days that can help, QuickBooks, you know, Sage, if it means getting a software, whatever it takes, make sure that you are able to define what are the acceptable behaviors within your business. If you don't, you see, those wrong behaviors will detract any vision, no matter how solid it is. So, values. The next thing is the venue, right? The venue, right? The understanding. And when I mean venue, I'm talking about the understanding, you know, and, you know, leveraging the environment in which your business operates. And what do I mean? Here you're talking about, for example, if you're operating a business in Nigeria, you must understand what the rules and regulations says. What is the Nigerian environment like? And then when you want to go global, you want to play globally, you must also understand what the rules and regulations say. That as an entrepreneur, as a business owner, one of the first things you must expose yourself to is knowledge about the environment. Now, some of us, I mean, you never even care what's happening on CNN, what's happening on BBC, what's happening in the world around you. I mean, you should care, because all of those things have an implication on your business, right? They all have an implication on your business, okay? And then, what is the fourth? Value proposition, right? The unique benefit a company offers to its customers. And when I mean customers, I'm talking about internal and external customers. Apologies, I'm seeing a lot of typos from my graphics guy. I don't know, but it's okay. So, value proposition, right? What are the unique benefits a company offers to its customers, right? And I'm talking about both internal customers and external customers. Internal customers and external customers. It is extremely important. What is that unique thing that we're going to be offering to our client? Why should our people buy from us? Why should they buy from me? I mean, sometimes you're going into a space that you already have individuals who are market leaders. I believe a very important question you must ask yourself is why? Why should they buy from me? Why? And that question leads you to think, because it begins to help you to think, okay, so how do I serve, you know, my services, my products in such a way that is unique and is distinguished, right? Such that when people experience me and they experience my customer, my competitor, they'll say, you know what, I'll stick with this guy or this person or this business, right? And then the last is teamwork, a level of single-mindedness and collaboration amongst the people within the business, right? Extremely important. You cannot build anything great without a great team. Is that okay? So as you look at your value, you look at all of the other V's, right? Visibility, which talks about marketing, right? You look at all of those V's and you're looking at everything. You must also consider the team that will deliver this. Is extremely, extremely, extremely important. Extremely, extremely important. Extremely important to look at the team that will deliver it. So in conclusion, I would say the best way to predict the future is to create it. I didn't say it. Abraham Lincoln said it. The best way to predict the future is to create it. So what am I saying? I believe we can build great businesses. I believe we can build businesses that would influence and impact the world. right? But something that we must do is to create it. We have to make the conscious choice and submit ourselves to the necessary discipline that would help us to create the kind of businesses that we want, the kinds of businesses that would make impact and would do great things on the face of the earth. So thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you for listening to me. Okay. Thank you very much. I'm going to take questions now. I know I see my been gathering questions from different places. Yes. So I'm just going to see if there are questions you can ask, and if you can type in the questions. Yeah, and I see my team have been gathering some questions that I think people are going to answer. Yeah, so let me try and answer them, right? So I see one question here. Thank you so much. Yeah. Please, is there a fixed period to stay at the startup stage? I mean, how many months or years to move from the startup to the stabilization stage? It will absolutely depend on you, right? It will absolutely depend on you. There is no fixed period to stay there. I'm telling you, there's no fixed period to stay at any of the stages. I've seen, there was an airline that I worked with in terms of consulting firm, managed their stabilization phase, and a massive airline. They're doing very great stuff in West Africa today. Now, when I were working with them, I mean, the airline started a particular year. In 2 years, they were already in stabilization phase. So we were developing all the structures, all the processes, all the systems, and that is an airline, right? So it doesn't take, there's no stipulated time. It absolutely depends on you and depends on your hunger. How long do you want to stay in that phase? I'll say try and move fast. Okay. All right. Another question. Let me see. Any other questions? Okay. Okay. So is there any other questions? I'm not seeing. So Mariah, okay. Is there any other question? Any question? Yeah. Another person says, how important is mentorship in starting a great business? Is it absolutely necessary? And how do we approach it? Oh, mentoring is powerful, right? Very powerful. Very, very powerful. I would say the way Isaac Newton said it. He said that if I have seen any greater, right, it is by standing on the shoulders of people who have gone ahead of me. That's how Isaac Newton said it. Okay. So what is he saying? I mean, when you have a mentor, the mentor tells you where the potholes are. The mentor tells you things to avoid. The mentor tells you things to invest in. The mentor it shows you the way. The person has experienced something. And so the person shortens your knowledge, right? So rather than you going to learn it by experiencing it, you can learn it by just listening to the mentor, right? So mentoring is extremely important in business and in life generally, right? I have mentors, I have career mentors, I have business mentors, I have mentors in different areas of my life, okay? And I leverage their wisdom to make my life easier, okay? So, okay, people are raising up their hands. So yeah, so please, you can unmute and speak. Thank you. Okay, so maybe while you speak, I'll just take this question. What is your take on motivational speakers that would say you don't need money to start business? Okay, this is a very good question, right? What's your take? Motivational speakers who say you don't need money to start a business. So I do not, if you ask me, I will tell you categorically, fully, you don't need money to start a business. And I'm not a motivational speaker. What do you need to start a business? You need an idea. You need an idea. If your idea is powerful enough, I can assure you it will attract all the money it needs to start at that level. Because what I've discovered is that sometimes people are starting a business with the wrong amount of capital, if that makes any sense to you. So let me explain. So someone has an idea of okay, you know what? I'm going to start out a marketing communications business, for example. That means I'm going to be working with businesses to help them communicate, develop their brand, build their brands, and all of that. Then the person says, you know what? To start up this enterprise, this idea, I need to get an office. How much would it take to rent an office? The person writes. I need to at least buy a car that I'll be using to go visit these individuals in their various businesses. The person writes that. I need to hire a driver. I mean, I can't drive myself. The person, especially, and the person itemizes. Very honestly, a lot of those things the person does not need. At that level, what should the person be focusing on? Again, going back to my table, the person should be focusing on number one, defining the purpose of the business. You don't need money to do that. Number two, defining the identity of the business. You don't need money to do that. Number three, defining the strategy for the business. You don't need money. In fact, if you do not define the strategy, you might not know how to use the money that is given to you, right? Part of defining strategy can be, part of it might be developing a business plan and all of that. You don't necessarily need money to do that. You see, I usually tell people you can leverage relationships, okay? Leverage relationships, right? It is not everything you have to pay for. Some things you have relationships, right? By the time you begin to make the big money, you can pay those relationships massively, right? But leverage relationships, okay? And then you need customers, right? So if you sit somebody and always start from the known to the unknown, right? With a lot of faith in yourself, with a lot of good conceptualization, you go and have a conversation. Somebody says, okay, come and help me. And the person pays you a peanut. That money is already money to invest in the business. It's not money to spend on yourself. It's money to invest in the business so that you can keep growing, right? So with all due respect, I would tell you that you don't really need money to start up a business. But I also understand that there are certain businesses, for example, if they are product-based, like I want to sell a phone. Now, of course, you need to buy the phone first. You might need to buy the phone first, right? Because also, if you're strategic, you might not necessarily need to buy the phone first. You might just be a connector, and you are the one selling the phone, right? So you display that I sell phones. These are all the kinds of phones I can sell. Somebody approaches you, you get it from this person, and you sell to this person. You do a little bit of markup. You are not greedy, and you're doing that. You didn't really use money to do anything, right? So I would say that most of the times you don't necessarily need money. But for those businesses that, okay, you need some investment at the beginning to start up, right? So yes, there are various ways to get that investment, from personal savings, from friends, from family, and if you can conceptualize your idea very well, there are lots of venture capitalists that are around these days that are going to be willing to take a chance on you. But remember, you must conceptualize your idea very well and in such a way that they can see value in what they want to put their money down to support. Okay? All right. The other question, what should one consider before going into a partnership or seeking investors? So there are two different things. If you're going into a partnership, I would always say, make sure that the other party is both parties are clear on what they are going to contribute to this partnership. Okay? There must be clarity between what they are going to contribute. And a lot of times, make sure that what the other party is contributing is something that you are not proficient in contributing. Okay? So that the person is augmenting your weakness and you are augmenting the person's weakness and you're creating something beautiful, right? I also say that make sure you get a lawyer involved. Is that okay? Very important to get a lawyer involved, all right? So that all of these conversations are well drafted, agreements are made, and when termination clauses are well defined, so that if the person is trying to be funny, you can exit, without any issues, right? So that for me will go for partnerships. Those are key critical things to consider before going into partnership. Then number two, seeking investors, right? If you're seeking investors, see, listen, and let me tell you this. Investors are not sowing a seed to your business. They are not, let me put it very plainly, investors are not looking out to help you. They are not looking out to help you. They like, if your idea seems brilliant, they are investing their money. Okay. What does that mean? That simply means that you must also communicate your idea intelligently in such a way that they would see how they are going to multiply their money by giving you their money. Okay. And then you must be trustworthy and present yourself trustworthy. And what do I mean by that? You must have all the necessary systems in place, right? You cannot be the one signing. You want to collect the money, you are the one signing all the checks. The account number is in your name. Your account, no investor would invest in that because you're going to run away with their money, and then there'll be issues, right? So make sure you have the right, open a proper bank account, make sure you have a board, make sure you have, good management. As much little as you can. It doesn't have to be massive, but let them see that you have the necessary things in place. Finance processes are in place. Your HR processes are in place. Your safety process, health and safety processes are in place. Those are critical things that investors look at. And nowadays, investors are beginning to look at your ESG compliance, right? So those are also some things to look. I don't know if you know what ESG, environment, social and governance. They are looking at those critical things, right? Do you have a board? Are you the lord and master of this business? You can take the money, nobody can question you. You can spend the money the way you like. No, they want to be sure you cannot spend the money. Their money that they are giving you is protected. That's one. And of course, without saying, a lawyer must be involved. However, you must also be willing to give up something. Somebody had a conversation with me a while back, and the person said, oh, no, I'm looking for investors. He called them investors, and I'm looking for investors that are going to give me money, and after X number of years, I will give them back the money. I said, I'm sorry, that's not an investor. That's a friend or a family member. Because an investor, you're not just going to give the person back the money. You must be telling them what stake you are giving them in your business, right? If the business is that brilliant, what stake are you giving them? What returns is going to come from to them by investing in your business? If you watch Dragon's Den, and there are a number of such shows, right? They show you how investors think. They are thinking about themselves. They want to create value, yes, but they are thinking about themselves because it's their hard-earned money they are going to be giving you. So in considering investors, make sure you put your house in order, right? We can have conversations further on this. If you need investors, I can tell you specifics on how to manage it. All right. Another question here says, in pricing, how do we draw the line, right? If it can fix the price at 400%, okay, 400% interest, how then do I make sure I don't overdo it such that I have a clear conscience? Now, I must say this, right? If you have a product to sell or a service to sell, whatever you value the product or the service to be worth to your business is absolutely your choice. So you can take this mouse and say, you know what? I'm going to sell this mouse for $500. It's your choice, even if you bought the mouse for $50. It's absolutely your choice. The only problem is that, remember, you have competitors. That's the problem, right? So when you place your value at $500, remember, nobody's going to come to you because people are seeing it for $70. So they are going to go to the guy who is $70 because they know they can see it's the same thing. And they are wondering, why am I going to pay $500 for that? Because people are going to, go to the competitors to buy. So how do you price rightly? So it's not really about conscience. It's about ensuring that you place a price on what you are selling, right, in such a way that you can make some profits, but you are not so greedy, okay? Because what you are trying to build is a sustainable business, right? You're trying to sell to someone who would come back tomorrow to buy, right? And you want that person to refer you to other people. So you must put your price at a price point that can be attractive enough to ensure that is happening. People are buying from you and they're recommending you to other people. So for me, and until that happens, you are not in business. Okay, you are into you so that you are not into the inventory business, stock in the warehouse, but you are not selling. Okay, so that's it. The next question, right, says okay, they said the people are raising up their hands. Sorry, I'm seeing my screen, I can't see you, so can you just speak, please? And maybe one of my team members can help to organize this. Thank you. Okay. Someone said, maybe I'll just read this, all right? How do I manage risk or build confidence to take risk when investing in a business? How do you manage risk? Number one, know about the business you're investing in. That's one. If you read the book, The Richest Man in Babylon, by something Klassen, I've forgotten his first name now. The Richest Man in Babylon is a good book on finances you should read. He always says that, number one, never invest in a business that you don't know about, right? So know about the business. Go and read up about the business, okay? Ask questions about the business. Go to the people who are in that business to find out what are the challenges you face in it. So understand the business, very important. That's one way to mitigate risk, right? So by understanding the business. The second thing to do then is to ensure that you go into the business with some legal backings, right? So you do not just invest and throw money. Make sure that there are some legality to your engagement, right? If you have a personal lawyer, protect yourself. Let there be clauses in the contract you're going to sign and all of that protects you. For me, those are two major ways to sort of manage risks. And you must be watching the business, right? So that you know when to get out before, if things are going to go south. All right? Okay. Somebody said, here, another question. Please, could you share some insights on the key metrics you use to evaluate your business progress and how to facilitate alignment and collaboration among your team members to achieve shared objectives? Okay. I mean, that's a very, very, very good one. How do you evaluate if a business is making progress? I evaluate in terms of profitability, right? Not just the growth in revenue, but the growth in profits. Okay, so revenue is profit plus cost. Profit is revenue minus cost. So profitability, how profitable is this business? Okay, so after I've sold everything that I'm selling, right, I take out my costs, actual costs. Is this business profitable? That is a very important metrics. So you talk about profit after tax. All right. So what is that? That's a very key metrics. Okay. Number two, you're looking at how is the business growing, the growth of the business. So if a business was serving 50 people before and now the business is serving 500 people, it's grown. So the growth of the business in that sense, that's the reach, the customers being served. Okay, so you're looking at it in terms of value and you're looking at it in terms of volume. For me, those are two very critical metrics. So value in terms of profitability, volume in terms of reach. For me, if you start out with those two key metrics, I can assure you, you would not be on the wrong path. And how do you facilitate alignment and collaboration among team members to shared objectives? Number one, make sure that you've defined the objective or the vision clearly. Is that okay? Make sure you've defined it. After you've defined it, make sure you keep communicating it. And make sure that you build a system in such a way that there are connections, right? People are not able to work in silos, right? And I must say this, right? For every business, people watch the leader or the leaders. If the leaders are not collaborating, there is a higher tendency people within the business will not collaborate very well. So that I would say. Okay. Okay, I'm just looking for the questions. Moriah, please, can you just help me? Can you, right? How do I manage? Okay. What if it becomes very difficult to access the right mentors for your business, right? In agriculture, for instance, it can be slightly difficult to get a personal relationship with a great mentor. Can a diligent search for knowledge substitute the place of mentorship? I mean, if I learn from a company by studying their models and trying to improve on their mistakes. You're right. Now, let me say this, right? So somebody, see, business is business, okay? The principles that govern business or business running a business are the same. If you go to a business school, they will teach you, you get an MBA, right? Or you get a DBA, depending, right? They do not specify, okay, this is now an MBA in agriculture. Some might, but most would not. This is an MBA in telco. This is an MBA in the oil and gas. No, it doesn't always necessarily work that way. They just teach you about the principles of business. So you can have a mentor in business, and that person can understand the principles so well that the person can help you apply those principles to your specific industry or sector. But that, even when you have a great mentor, right, it never takes away the place of you studying yourself and understanding the nuances and the peculiarities of the business you're in. So there are two different things, and I believe there are two things you must have. They complement each other. Okay. All right. Someone says, how can one work on communicating their business to people? Physically walking up to an individual, especially when it is obvious that these people might already have someone who already offer the same service as yours. So then the question around value proposition comes in. What are you offering that is unique that the other person, and you cannot say, and I've seen people get there, say, oh, I design better. My own is better. How is it better? Why? Everybody believes their own product or their own service is better. How is it better? You must be able to demonstrate that. If you can demonstrate that to someone, and then you must be willing. So you see, what I also see people do is that you say yours is better, then you charge a premium for it. The person is already buying something at X amount of money. You are coming with a new product and you are charging a premium because you are convinced it is better. The person is not convinced yours is better. So you must be able to convince the person not only by saying it and by showing it, that your price must also be convincing, right? So for me, that's one very critical thing to note. All right. What is most important at the start of a business? Brand identity or value or product or service, right? Basically, what should be one's priority at this stage? The truth is, number one, a brand is powerful. Oh, yes. But the product or the service that you are going to be delivering is extremely important, because if you promise people, because remember what a brand is. What's a brand? There's something called a brand promise. The brand promise is, if you drink XYZ drink, this is what you will feel, right? Now, if I go and drink XYZ drink and I don't feel that, then the brand promise has been defeated, right? So the product gives your brand any essence, if that makes any sense. So first of all, define what product and service you want to even offer. Then ask yourself, what value proposition do I have where this product or service is concerned? As you build that, and what you're also doing is you're building your brand. At a particular level, right, in the growth process, it becomes more important now to push your brand, because you are certain that if they encounter your brand and they encounter the product, the promise and the product would be in alignment. So that's what I would say. All right. Okay. What kind of investment recommendations can I venture into as a small business owner? Well, investment recommendations can you venture into as a small business owner? Investment recommendations, I would say that there are some investments. And when you say investment recommendations, how do you mean? But in my head, I'm thinking you're talking about a place where you can take your money and place, for it to grow. I would say go to the money markets. Okay, mutual funds is a great one. Mutual funds is a great one. Low risk, very low risk, and you can just Google all the mutual fund options available, and then make sure you can place your money there. And I'm sure, it would help your money multiply. If you're talking bonds are also, but I think you need some more money to do that. But bonds are also good. And treasury bills are also safe investments, right? Those are safe investments. Now, if you're talking about a business to invest in, what kind of business should you invest in? Lots of factors and parameters will come into play. Okay. Number one, your interest, because remember, you shouldn't be investing in a business you are not so conversant with, right? Your interest will come into play. So you must know about the business, your interest, your knowledge, right? And then ensuring that you are able to protect yourself in that investment. So for me, those are critical things to note. Okay. All right, all right. Any other question? Aside from a business plan, what other plans should we have along with a business plan? Okay, so if you've done your business plan properly, okay, in that business plan, there'll be a marketing plan. Is that okay? If you've done your business plan properly, fully, and it's not only the financial plan you're talking about now, there'll be an operations plan in that business plan. If you've done your business plan properly, again, right, what you would have is some very good research around the environment in which your business exists and you want to do some business. So that would be extremely important. After you've created your business plan, right, from your business plan, you can tease out and define the strategy, right, your strategic plan, how you want to approach the market, the things you will do, the things you will not do, right? So those things become important. So that's also something that I think your strategic plan, I think, is also something very important that you should have. And I'm assuming your business plan contains all the marketing plan, the operations plan, and a solid financial plan. Okay. So what recommendations for places where one can invest with favorable ROI? I think I've answered that question. I've said it. Okay. Checking the screen means I should exit, right? So my colleagues are saying I should stop sharing and I should check the screen. Okay. All right. Okay. As a small business, what you describe as self-employment, is there a best way to fix profit margins? How do we know the right percentage to attach to your costs when delivering service or products? How much profit margin is too small or too much? It depends on the kind of business you're in. For example, anybody going into the aviation industry now, it's a single-digit profit. That's generally all over the world. That's the principle. I mean, if you can break into two, great for you. So it depends on the industry. It depends on the kind of, what profit would make sense to you, okay, as a business. What profit will make enough sense to you that you are going to be willing to run your business on. So for me, that's the real answer. So it's not about a fixed percentage of profit margins and all of that. It depends on what you've decided. Again, I've mentioned your strategic plan, right? So there are times that I've seen businesses go into the market and they will tell you that for the first 3 years, for the first 6 years, we are going to be losing money. So we're going to be throwing money in, but we're not expecting ourselves to be profitable. I've seen businesses do that. After 3 years, this is the kind of profit we're going to be getting. I've seen businesses do that. So maybe the question is, what kind of business and what strategy do you want to implement to go to market? Okay. And businesses who do that, they are playing on price. So they are entering into a sector that they discover, okay, well, all the senior people in that industry or sector, they are pricing at a particular point. So how do we break into the market? Okay, you know what? We're going to place our price at a lower, so it's going to be way lower than what our competitors are offering. We attract customers, after 6 years, 3 years, 4 years, depending, we've attracted enough customer base. We have X number of customer base. Then we begin to gradually increase our money, because at that stage, we know that people would have been used to our taste, and then they will stay with us. Okay? So I think that answers this question. Okay? What's the next question? Next question. Okay. Alrighty. I think let me see. Let me look at I think Jade Sola, your hands are raised. Do you want to ask a question? Please feel free to do so. Okay. And maybe just before you do, Eden, you said, do we have this class recorded? Some of us had network issues. Okay, yes, we have it recorded. We'll share with you. Someone else says, what can you say about a business idea that you know will require significant, large amount of funds to be executed? How can one scale through this phase? Well, I think I already explained it earlier. The first thing is to ensure that, so when you say significant investment, I don't know the business, right? Because you might say it needs significant investment, and when we sit down together, I can show you that it might not require as much significant investment as you might claim, because your investments might have included a lot of other things that very honestly might not be necessary. Okay. So, but let's assume it requires significant investment. I would tell you that, there at the startup phase, there are different things to do. You can get money from your friends, build a solid business case. You can get money from venture capitalists, I don't know if you want to do a bank. The interest rates are quite high, and I think is globally. So, but that's also something you can also explore, or you can decide to build gradually. Okay. Alrighty. So I think those are the questions. If you have more questions, you can just send it to us. So if you look on the screen, these are, our social media handles, our LinkedIn, X, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube, right? And you can also join our WhatsApp channel. I think this is extremely important, right? Join our WhatsApp channel. There'll be conversations going there, ongoing. We'll share certain secrets with you. And please, the idea, like I said, is that, this business leadership masterclass, is a movement. Okay. So feel free, we share our ideas with you. And the goal at the end of the day is to ensure that we're able to build solid businesses globally, especially in Africa, right? Businesses that can stand the test of time, businesses that can do great things, and businesses that can add a lot of value to the world that we live in. So thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Let me see. My colleagues, any other comments? Mariah, any other comments? If you did not register for the event, right? I think there is a link that must have been dropped, Mariah. You can click on that link so that you're added to our mailing list, and then we can share. We're going to share some materials from this session with you, right? And more materials, lots of materials with you. The idea is to ensure that you become all you were created to be. You build a business that becomes all it was created to be. So thank you so much. Okay, so somebody says the last question. At the self-employed stage, how can somebody set up a good team? Most artisans are all about the big pay want to get. And I like that, right? And I'll answer this question and I think we'll be done. Okay. So, it depends on what you want to build. It really depends on what you want to build, right? And that's why I started talking about building a great business, a great organization. If what you're interested in building is something that can feed your family, what I would call a sustenance business, right? You're building for survival, then it's okay. But a lot of what we are saying here might not make much sense to you, right? But you're building for survival. As long as the business is just bringing in some profits that you can use and enjoy, then at that point, you are very comfortable with building small. But if you want to build a great business, and you see, the truth is that the real money is in building a great business. Is that okay? So if you want to build a great business, then the truth is that you would at some point have to hire a great team. right? Or pull together a great team. And how do you do that? Make sure that you are hiring, number one, hire for character, hire for competence. Okay? Hire for character, people with great character, people who are in alignment with the values of the business you're trying to build. Okay? And then hire for competence. Don't staff your weakness. Okay? There are things, for example, I use myself as an example. Okay? Now, on the team, right, I'm not a graphics designer, but I have a fantastic graphics designer. Ignore all of the mistakes. Here's how we downloaded the slides. So we'll send the proper slides to you. Okay. So I have a fantastic designer, right, who's churning out all our designs and all of that. Now, I'm not a designer. You can imagine if I was designing, it would have been terrible. Then I also discovered I'm not a fantastic digital marketing person, right? I have Mo, fantastic lady, doing great work, right? Managing all of this, opened all of this, managing it. So you see, then of course there are the technology bits that I'm not. David is there managing and making all of that seamless, right? Then all of the videos and all of that, there's Isaac there making all of that happen. Then of course the marketing part of it, my wife is there making my point. What am I trying to say? I'm trying to say that great businesses, right, are made up of great teams. Great teams. You have Ubong, who is sort of project managing all of this on my behalf, doing great work. So how do you pull together? You pull together individuals who, number one, they have the right character, and number two, they have the right competence that you're looking for to build. Okay. So, hey, if you have more questions, send an email to hello@thelifelimited.com. And I want to thank each and every one of you for joining the session. Thank you for spending your time with us today. And I want to say Happy New Month one more time, and do enjoy the rest of your evening. Thank you. And see you next month, 1st of May, Workers' Day, but see you next month. I'm sure it will be more interesting and a lot more rich content will be communicated. Thank you very much, everyone. Take care. Bye. Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you.